This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The chair will call upon public speakers at the appropriate time. Each public speaker is requested to state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Public speakers who wish to speak in person should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Public speakers participating by Zoom who are wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of any written correspondence would like to speak during the meeting, they should raise their hand or submit a public speaker card. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Thank you. Emily, will you please conduct the roll call?
Commissioner Arnridge.
Here.
Commissioner Alt-Bernal.
Here.
Commissioner G.
Here.
Vice Chair Kelly.
Here.
Chair Noack.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum.
Great. First item on the agenda is public comment. Is there any members of the public that wish to speak?
We have no public comments, written or virtual.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our public comment. The next item on the agenda is the election of chair and vice chair for 2026. Do I have any nominations for chair and vice chair? Darlene?
Yes, I would like to nominate Chris Kelly as chair and Newell Arnridge as vice chair.
I'll second that. Sorry. I guess I wasn't supposed to do that, huh? All right. Are there any comments or additional nominations from the committee? Okay. Have we received any written or any member of the public wishing to speak?
No written or virtual public comments.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Can we please conduct the roll call vote?
Commissioner Arnridge.
Aye.
Commissioner Alt-Bernal.
Yes.
Commissioner G.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kelly.
Yes.
Chair Noack.
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously.
I think you're up.
I guess so. We change in the middle of the meeting. Okay. So the next item is the consent calendar. Does anyone wish to pull an item? No. Emily, do we have anyone who wishes to speak on any of these consent items?
We have no public comments, written or virtual.
Okay, so bringing it back to the commission here, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Noack. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by G. No further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Alt-Bernal.
Yes.
Commissioner G.
Yes.
Commissioner Noack.
Yes.
Vice Chair Arnridge.
Yes.
Chair Kelly.
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So now we're on to our regular agenda items, and the first one is the legislative update to be introduced by Lindy Johnson.
Good morning, Chair Kelly and Commissioners. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Mark Watts, who will start us off with a state legislative update. We'll then turn to the federal update. Thank you, Mark.
Hey, thank you. Good morning, and I apologize for the somewhat informal appearance here, but I'm in a different time zone, and it's all great. So the budget has been kind of a confounding item for the last couple of weeks since it was introduced. I think the early action item that took care of the loan legislation has been cleared and behind us. And overall, the budget for transportation was left alone. The governor remained committed to the promises that have been made generally over the last couple of years, with the one exception for zero emission electric vehicle funding. And there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to address that. I don't have a lot more to provide this morning on a big picture. technically, I think there's a couple bills I wanted to bring your attention to. The first, I just want to congratulate staff and others on the work that they did to get the bill launched that deals with your local tax authority. 1408 by Mr. Arkeen is in motion and has been introduced, and that's all I'll say for now. But it took a lot of work to get to this point, so just congratulations. The other measure I want to highlight is very confusing, and a lot of folks are zeroing in on it. And it's by new Senator Cabaldon, SB 1087, and it deals with the planning grants that were part of SB 1, and it would condition the availability of the planning grants to be made to local entities on some housing items, and it's not clear exactly how that will work going forward. So it's been marked as one of the bills that have come along in the last couple of years that try to tie changes in housing policy to SB 1. And I think the transportation industry has been very, very effective on pushing back on that. In terms of I have nothing to report in terms of legislative appointments or changes in leadership at this point. We're watching that very carefully. I will remind you that the late date of late February was February 20th, I think, the date to introduce bills. And as a consequence, when the bills that were introduced that late in the session have 30 days. So late March will be the earliest. Some of these bills will be assigned to committees and set for hearings. So we've got a very, very tenuous next week, a month or two, as we see the bills come through the process and get ready to be set for hearing. So that would be my presentation for this morning, and thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions here or comments? Yes, Sue?
Sorry. On 1087, I'll be meeting with Senator Cabaldon on March 19th. He invited me to attend with a couple other elected officials to talk about 1087, so hopefully I can bring back some clarity on that one. And do we have an outline on the bill that?
I have not prepared one for staff yet.
No, I meant for our bill, for the bill.
Oh.
that-
Sorry.
Are you referring to a
Is that-
fact sheet?
Yeah.
Yes. So we do have one in process. We're working with the senator's office to, dot some i's and cross some t's, but we should have one hopefully by the end of the week.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes, Noel?
Yeah, I would just add to what Sue said. I think for the bill that Jesse Aguirre is carrying, I think it's good that we all make sure that we reach out as board members and thank him for his efforts. And it's a big lift, but he seems to be very pleased in doing so. The other bill I would ask that maybe we weigh in, it's about bicycles, but it's e-bikes. And, we help promote Complete Streets. RBK has her bill, AB 1492. It's about licensing. And I was telling her a story that I remember back in the late 1950s. I grew up out in the Central Valley. I had to have a license, a metal license that the police department had to crimp on. And if you didn't have it and you rode it to school, a police officer occasionally show up and they'd take all the bikes without the licenses and kind of corral them up, and you couldn't get out of school and ride home because your bike was locked up. So she's proposed this for the Class 2, Class 3 bikes. And our police departments throughout California are starting to get together that they would also do the license plates in colors, different colors, one for a Class 2, one for a Class 3. And the reason why there's no way right now to do any kind of enforcement. You don't know if it's an electric motorcycle or that. They have to spend all this time. So maybe there might be a way we could weigh in to help support her. She's from our jurisdiction. I think it would be good that we could, and thoughtfully add any comments to that too. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion about the different color license plates, because people and school officials and police, they have no idea which class it is sometimes. And e-bikes are, in some instances, causing some real issues. Okay, any other questions or comments for Mark?
Chair Kelly, just
Yes.
one little comment. So at Planning Committee today, we're actually going to be considering an item to put out an RFP for a countywide micromobility model ordinance and basically like a toolkit for cities to deal with these e-bike issues and micromobility issues. So we're trying to just develop some best practices because we know this is a big issue for all the local jurisdictions.
Great, thank you. Okay, I
Yes.
think we'll,
Chair,
yes.
may I just interrupt? I'm remiss. I did not mention something that's been very important to me, and I think it's going to be very beneficial for the authority, and that is the fact that on January 1st, I merged with a firm led by Senator Bill Dodd.
Yes, we
who-
noticed.
Okay, good. I just wanted to acknowledge that, and it's very helpful for me in doing the work for you guys, as well as his reach is really, really good for the transportation arena. So I'm very happy to move forward working together with them on your behalf.
Great, great, and thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Mark, thank you for your comments. And Lindy?
Thank you, Mr. Watts. I will now introduce Mr. Jason Tai to provide us a federal update. Mr. Tai?
Good morning. How's
Hello.
everyone doing? Looks like a beautiful sunny day once again in California, so I'm very, very jealous. We've had a full week of cloudiness and rain, so as always, I'm just kind of moping around here now. But we have been continuing to monitor and aggressively pursue a number of different initiatives. But first off, wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to speak here once again. Chair, Vice Chair, members, wanted to give a quick snapshot in terms of what is going on this session outside of what we are reading in the news. I think one of the first things that we should probably provide a little perspective on is the more rapidly decreasing kind of thin margins in the House of Representatives between the R's and the D's. This does mean that this year, the razor-thin majority will result in a lot of challenges in passing legislative initiatives in the House. So with that in mind, I think there are probably some expectations that will only be a few large items of note that will be on the priority. One of them, it will be the FY 2027 appropriations package. As you may have seen and read and heard from us and from our monthly reports, just within the last month or two, Congress finally passed the FY 2026 appropriations bills, which includes a number of allocations, CDPs, CDSs, or as I still continue to call them because I'm older, earmarks. Within all of these various appropriation bills, I have to give a spectacular shout out to our amazing congressional delegation, Congressman DeSaulnier simply being a fantastic advocate across the board, Congressman Garamendi, and I know with Prop 50 there will be some shifts sitting in the map. We recently had a meeting, I think, with Congressman Josh Harder, who winds up picking up some parts of Contra Costa on the northeastern side, I believe, along the Delta, northern side. He is a member of the Appropriations Committee, so I think he's well positioned to provide a lot of support for CCTA. So building back into this, FY 2027 appropriations process has begun in earnest. That will be an initiative that hopefully will result in a full year spending package sometime by the end of this year. Probably during lame duck Congress following the November elections. Just met with a senior Democratic member on the House Transportation Appropriations Subcommittee. Very, very inspired that they were able to work in a bipartisan fashion, the Appropriations Committee, to finalize a final budget for FY 2026. So there's an expectation and a hope and a desire that that will continue to happen through the course of this year. Currently, the portals have opened for programmatic and various other funding requests So that is moving on a very, very quick clip in the House. The Senate has also, I think, as of tomorrow, will close their portals, at least for the two California senators. So all of these things are moving at a much more aggressive clip than in previous years. So I'll take a pause there for the appropriations process and answer any questions that may be out there.
Okay, any questions here? Noel?
I'm sorry, I thought Sue was.
Oh,
Sue?
sorry. I just left my
And
mic.
Jason, maybe this might not be for you, but to Tim, one or the other. Do we have an update on the mega grant process? I could see you were jumping.
Yeah, I mean, really positive news. I mean, I give all the credit to Stephanie. I mean, she's been really staying on top of this and making sure we are being very responsive along the way. But we got a really positive email last week that basically says they're loading the agreement into their system for execution. Yes. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer.
Thank you all.
Great. Any other questions or comments about appropriations? No? Okay, Jason, do you have more?
Just a quick snapshot on another large legislative package. There is a desire to pass this by the end of this year, and that is the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Bill, which, as you may remember, passed in the earlier part of this decade, which I'm a little concerned that this decade's moving so quickly for me. But IIJA, which was $1.2 trillion, which included a large number of discretionary programs, all the formula programs that are pushed out to states and large urbanized areas through federal highways, as well as the FTA formula funds, and all of the large discretionary programs such as BUILD, what was previously called Tiger, MEGA, all of the large discretionary grants that CCTA, under the leadership of the board and Tim and the rest of the great team and Lindy, have been so successful in winning, including the last $166 million tranche. With this Republican-controlled Congress, there is an expectation now, and they've been telegraphing it as much, that the top lines for funding might be lower than it was before under IIJA. The House is not yet moved in terms of the Transportation Committee, in terms of the formula programs, in terms of the discretionary grant programs. They have started preliminary negotiations between the Republicans and the Democrats in the House T&I Committee, of which Mr. DeSaulnier is a senior member of, as well as Mr. Garamendi. The Senate may actually be moving somewhat more quickly. It is, and I won't bore too much in the detail, but their jurisdiction is split amongst multiple different committees in terms of who handles transit, who handles rail, who handles highways. There's some intelligence coming out, including from the leadership, Republican leadership of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee by the majority chair, that the numbers will be lower. And what that means, and I think the impact to CCTA and many other local units of government, is that they will probably plan to push out most of their funding through the formula programs, which means states will probably get the majority of the funding. And discretionary grants, especially the large discretionary grants that local units of government and others have so successfully pursued, there's an expectation that the discretionary grants will be either cut, reduced, or folded into the formula program. So that is something to keep an eye out for. And certainly under this current administration, this current makeup of Congress, things that are considered green or perhaps perceived as left of center will probably take a lower priority and or result in some level of cuts. So that is more of a makeup of the composition of Congress and this administration, and something we will continue to work to push our priorities. But we do want to level set that there is a certain level of the composition will drive a lot of the policies. So we'll take a pause here. The only thing I would add is that the current bill expires at the end of this federal fiscal year, which also means that they're all trying to get a bill done before September 30th. The expectation that a bill will be done by before then is probably very, very unlikely. There's never been a surface transportation reauthorization package passed on time, probably since 1982. So, but hey, we could be proven wrong. So
Okay.
we'll happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions here from the commission? Committee? No. Any comments? No? Emily, do we have any public comment on this or on state?
No public comments, written or virtual.
Okay, well, Jason, thank you very much for your report, and thanks for
Thank
looking
you.
out for us.
Great to see you, and great to see the sunshine outside.
Thanks, Jay.
Wonderful. And I want to thank both Mark Watts and Jason Ty for their reports. Okay, so moving on, the next agenda item will be the countywide smart signal project update here, and Andy Dillard is going to present this.
Good morning, Chair Kelly and Commissioners. So the item before you is seeking approval of Resolution 2609P to authorize approval of construction advertisement for the countywide smart signals project. So with final PS&E largely complete for this project, staff is preparing to submit a request for authorization to Caltrans to proceed to construction. Pending issuance of the authorization to proceed, staff is prepared to release the project for construction advertisement anticipated for late March or early April. So in summary, as you all know, the countywide smart signals project involves all 19 cities in the county. It's a $30.8 million project. Funded with $26.5 million in One Bay Area Grant Cycle 3 funds, as well as approximately $3.6 million in local match, Measure J funds, as well as SB1 formulaic local partnership program funds. So the project will upgrade now 365 traffic signals across, again, all 19 cities in the county. It's going to enhance the sharing of real-time traffic signal operations information between the agencies. And it's going to also provide a unified technology and communication systems in the form of a countywide center-to-center advanced traffic management system that will be hosted here at CCTA. And this is going to enable the Contra Costa region to advance preparation to integrate emerging technologies and smart city initiatives going forward. So just to review some of the elements of the project, very similar to some of the earmark projects you've heard recently. Of course, this is a little more intensive project, but this also includes implementation of local advanced traffic management systems, as well as the aforementioned countywide center-to-center system. It includes advanced traffic signal controllers at the cabinets, video radar detection systems, battery backup systems, communications infrastructure, and cloud-based transit signal priority system. As with the signal earmarks, CCTA will be taking the lead in procurement of all the equipment and providing that as agency-furnished materials to the contractor. The contractor will be tasked with the installation and the system integration of all the equipment. Just to go back a little bit of background, so beginning in 2022, this project started with coordination of all the agencies in Contra Costa County. We developed stakeholder working groups, developed a concept of operations, procured consultant teams. There's 2 consultant teams working on this project, split between the east and central region and the west and south region of the county. We've been researching and evaluating all the various technologies out there, hardware and software solutions and all those associated costs, and then finally reviewing and developing all the stages of the PS&E. In addition, over the last month and over the next few weeks, authority staff, along with the consultant teams and the equipment vendors, have been visiting the individual agencies for one-on-one meetings to go over their systems, make sure they understand them, meet with their IT folks to understand the system requirements, answer any questions they may have, and we intend to do this leading up to construction, of course, all throughout construction as needed and as requested by the cities. So the schedule, so we're anticipating, as I mentioned at the beginning, to go advertise for construction in April with anticipated award in May. We could begin contract execution and then equipment procurement in June. Equipment procurement can take anywhere from 1 to 3 months depending on the equipment. So, for example, traffic signal controllers and video detection systems. Those are probably a little bit more readily available, whereas items like traffic signal cabinets, fortunately there aren't many, but those have longer lead times, anywhere up to 4 to 5 months. Start of construction is anticipated for July, and we anticipate it's going to take about 11 months to complete the project. We've had a lot of questions about phasing. How's it going to work? A lot of it's going to be prescribed by the contractor, but we anticipate that it's going to be a city by city for efficiency, although some of that's going to be prescribed too by the availability of the equipment as it comes in. So with that, staff is seeking approval of Resolution 2609P. It will authorize the executive director or designee to approve the project plans, design, and in accordance with Government Code Section 830.6 to preserve design immunity. 2, to publicly advertise the construction contract at the executive director or designee's discretion. 3, to approve changes and issue addenda to the bidding documents during the advertisement period. And finally, to publicly open all bids received. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions here or comments? Yes, Darlene.
Thank you, Andy. This is stating the obvious, I hope, but can you share a little bit? I assume all of this is completely compatible and integrated with what we're doing in Danville and Concord and La Miranda. Can you talk about that a little bit in terms of how it's all interfacing with each other?
Absolutely. So the signal earmarks you've heard to this point, the Danville project, La Miranda, and the Concord projects, it's all the similar nature as far as the signal controllers, the video detection systems, and the advanced traffic management systems. So those systems that are going in as part of those earmark projects, it's all the same type of equipment and vendors that's included in the countywide signal project. So it's all compatible.
Okay. Newell.
Just a comment, just sort of on, it's impressive how quickly this project's moving forward. It seems incredibly well organized, and it's actually really crucial, not just for some of the things that we just heard and that's in the report, but also for our county-wide evacuation plans, particularly for a fire. You know, earthquakes, you're not moving people as much. It's pretty much getting people into support. But in case of catastrophic fires, we have to move people. This project is a key solution, as we've seen Houston and other places around the country. So impressive. We get this done even 11 months, that's pretty good. So well done. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay. Any other comments here? Yes.
Yeah, Chair Kelly, I just want to mention, so Danielle Elkins, our Deputy Executive Director of Planning, she's actually participating right now in a countywide Office of Emergency Services workshop, you know, and basically, you know, fleshing out those things that you just very much said. And then I just want to give credit to Andy here. Andy's really the one that kind of picked this ball up and ran with it when he got here and really made this project happen. So I really appreciate Andy and all his effort. I mean, this guy's working 12 hours a day trying to get this thing out the door, and all the work and all the hours. And so just really appreciate everything you've been doing for these projects and all the work that you're doing, Andy.
Thank you. And I have a comment. I think this is a really important project, particularly for emergency services, but just also for, you know, helping transit and move things. And I understand that the Richmond Parkway is not part of this. Is that correct? It's not included in this countywide signals?
Not in this phase, no, it is.
So the Richmond Parkway is kind of like an abandoned child. You know, it's like part of it is in Richmond, part of it is in the county. Nobody owns it. So when staff initially went and asked about, you know, what are the important routes that we might, you know, apply the signals project, nobody brought that up. And at WCTAC, you know, had we known about that and had been allowed to kind of comment on that, we would have added it on, because right now the traffic in the afternoon going northbound on the Richmond Parkway is just jam-packed. And if the signals were more reasonably timed, we could save, like, you know, 13 to 14 minutes in traffic, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. The Richmond Parkway is a route of regional significance. So going forward, I think just highlight sort of, you know, regional coordination and consultation. So I just want to point that out. And hopefully at some point, we can get Smart Signals project on that abandoned child. Thank you.
Actually, I just add a comment.
Yeah.
I was just there yesterday, and I've been keeping track over the past 12 months. So I end up going through there, particularly during rush hours. There's actually only one signal it's a mess. It takes, I don't care if there's 4 cars or 300 cars, it takes 3 signal cycles to get through that intersection.
Which one is that? Do you recall?
It's if you're heading east, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
You came off of 580.
Yeah.
It would be 1, 2, 3. It's about the 4th signal.
I think I know what you're talking
And
about.
it's always the same.
Yeah.
It's disconnected from everything else. And I don't know who owns that, what jurisdiction. But there can be no cars
Yeah.
trying to get through from the other way, and this timing device just stalls. And it took us I told my wife, just wait, it'll be 3 complete cycles. It took us 3 times to get through there.
Yeah, so that just highlights one of those. Like I said, the Richmond Parkway is an abandoned child. At one point, we tried to get Caltrans to take it over, and they wouldn't do it. So hopefully, in the future, something can be done there.
Chair Kelly,
Yeah.
just really quick, I mean, I met with Shasha Curl from the city manager of Richmond, and she also brought this to my attention, and
Yeah.
so I think we'll be looking at that in terms of like a TEP and all these things. I think to your point, I think it's a really important critical link in our network, and I think it's really important that we, prioritize it. The one thing though is, and this is good information, we'll take this back and see how we can potentially look at how we address the signal synchronization on the corridor. I mean, me and Ryan were just talking, one potential option would be a congressional earmark, and just put in a congressional earmark just for Richmond Parkway. So we'll take it back and see if we can make things happen.
Okay, that would be great. Okay, any other comments? Yes, Andy?
Yeah, I'd just like to add too, I appreciate the kudos, but I also want to give a shout out to our stakeholder working group. So just to add a little bit more to that, we had a core working group, which was a select group of mostly traffic engineers throughout the cities, as well as a larger stakeholder working group. And then the 2 consultant teams I mentioned and the AMG staff. There's been a lot of folks involved in this project, including our new executive deputy director of projects. So it's been a really a huge team effort. So, and it's going to be to get this to the finish line. So I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge them too as well. So.
Great. Thank you. Emily, is there any public comment on this item?
No public comment, written or virtual.
Okay, so before us, I believe we have a resolution.
I would move the item as presented here today. Thank you.
Okay, so a motion by Arnrich, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Bernal. No more discussion. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Yes.
Commissioner Nowak,
Yes?
Vice Chair Arnrich,
Yes.
Chair Kelly.
Yes,
Aye, motion passes unanimously.
great, thank you. And Andy, thank you for all your work on this. It's wonderful. Okay, so our next item is the approval of the fiscal year 25-26 mid-year budget for the authority and the Congestion Management Agency, and this will be presented by Yuli Chang.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Yuli Chang, Finance Manager for CCTA. I'm pleased to present the fiscal year 25-26 mid-year budget for both the authority and the CMA. This morning, I'll briefly walk through what has changed since the budget was last adopted in June, what has remained the same, and what those updates mean for the rest of the fiscal year. Overall, the authority's financial position remains stable. Most of the adjustments you'll see today are related, primarily driven by project timing rather than new policies or funding changes. This update is truly collaborative work effort, so I'd like to thank all the department heads with their teams and for their partnership and for providing the updated project schedules, program updates, and operational information that help finance put together this revised budget. I'll do my best to answer any questions you may have, and if there are any questions that are related to project or program specific, our department heads are here and will be able to provide additional details. As a reminder, the mid-year budget is not a new budget. It's an opportunity to update the financial plan that the board adopted last June. The process mainly serves three purposes. First, it updates the Measure J expenditure plan schedule. Second, it gives us an opportunity to review how revenues and expenditures are tracking at the midpoint of the fiscal year. And third, it aligns project and program budgets with their current implementation timeline. Program allocations continue to follow the further approved Measure J sales tax percentages, and the program, capital commitments remains consistent with prior board-approved funding resolutions. So overall, this update simply helps ensure the project to reflect how projects are actually progressing this year. So I'll start with the main takeaway. We're proposing a 32.2 million reductions to the overall budget, bringing it from 203.2 million down to 171 million. I'd like to emphasize an important point here. This reduction reflects timing, not cuts. There are no program eliminations, no policy changes, no changes to the Measure J funding allocations. Most of the adjustments are related to construction schedule shift between fiscal year and reimbursement timing from partner agencies. So while the total annual number decreases, the actual project commitments remain the same. This slide gives a high-level snapshot of the adjustments that make up that 32.2 net reductions. The staff report includes the full details, but overall, the changes are largely driven by project schedule shifts and reimbursement timing. Over the next few slides, I'll walk through the major revenue and expenditure categories behind those changes. Let me start with the revenues. Sales tax revenues steady at about 120 million. Based on the latest projections from our consultant HDL and our current collections, sales tax performance has been essentially flat year over year. So we're not recommending any change to the forecast at this time. Investment income, on the other hand, is performing slightly better than expected. We are increasing the investment income by about 988,000, bringing the revised total to 5.9 million. This mainly reflects stronger investment earnings on reserve balances and debt service funds, which continue to support the authority's financial position. Sales tax, this chart gives us a visual view of sales tax performance. As you can see, revenues have been fairly steady. Last fiscal year, we closed at about 120 million, just a little over 120 million. And we're projecting about the same level this year. So at this point, there's no change at the adopted forecast. Next are the grant revenues tied to capital projects. We're increasing grant revenues to about 1.2 million, bringing the revised total to 30.5 million. Many of these grants they operate on a reimbursement timing, so the timing of project activity can affect when those revenues show up in a given fiscal year. Example this year include adjustments related to right-of-way work for the I-86 SR4 interchange project, schedule updates for the I-80 San Pablo Dam Road improvements, and final billings for the Iron Horse Trail over crossing project. Again, these are schedule adjustments rather than funding changes. On the planning and CMS side, we continue to receive Surface Transportation Program and PPM funds, along with other reimbursements for projects such as the San Pablo Multimodal effort and streetlight data analysis. We're receiving 1.6 million in transportation fund for clean air, along with about 5.8 million in local contributions to support initiatives like Safe Street for All, countywide smart signal, and other partner-supported projects. These funds help leverage local resources to support planning and mobility initiatives across the county. Turning to, sorry, I think I skipped one. Right. So turning to project expenditures, we are decreasing the project expenditures by 11.3 million, bringing the revised total to roughly about 32.2 million. The largest adjustments are related to construction schedule updates, including the SR 239 schedule refinement, environmental phase timing for the I-80's SR4 interchange project, right-of-way timing for the I-80 projects, and several components of the Innovate 680 shifting into fiscal year 27. Several non-Measure J projects are also shifting into fiscal year 27, including county smart signals, the Antioch Bike Garden, Lamorinda signal improvements, and SS4A corridor planning work. Again, these changes mainly reflect timing between fiscal years. Program expenditures decreased slightly by about 1.9 million, bringing the revised total to 76.6 million. This program includes the bus services, ferry service, TLC, pet bike, commute alternatives, and paratransit, all funded according to the Measure J expenditure plan. The adjustments mainly reflect updated spending schedules and reimbursement timing. One item worth highlighting is return to source funding for local and sub-regional street maintenance, which remains fully funded. That allocation continues at about at 20.09% of sales tax revenues, totaling about 24.1 million this year. Planning expenditures decreased by about 2.3 million, bringing the revised total to 4.7 million. These changes simply aligns the planning budget with the contracts and work that are actively underway this year. Major efforts, including CMS support and countywide transportation plan update, big data initiatives, San Pablo Avenue multimodal effort, and countywide emergency evacuation study. So administrative expenses also decreased, but it's really slightly to about 4 million. Salaries and benefits represent about 0.91% of sales tax revenue, which remains comfortably below the 1% administrative cap under Measure J. Professional services costs are also trending lower than originally projected. Debt service funds remains unchanged at 42.9 million, including 28.5 million for principal and 14.5 million for interest. All obligations remain fully on schedule. In terms of staffing, the authority currently has 27.5 authorized positions with 27.4 full-time equivalents filled. Pension contribution rates remain stable at 11.94% for Classic and 7.96% for PEPRA members or employees. Our other post-employment benefits obligations remain fully funded, and overall, we continue to maintain a strong long-term financial position. So to summarize, sales tax revenues remain stable. Investment income is performing slightly above projections. Grant revenues reflect normal reimbursement timing. Most expenditure adjustments are tied to project schedule shifts between fiscal years. Administrative costs remain below the Measure J cap, and debt service obligations remain fully on track. So overall, the proposed mid-year adjustments reduce the budget by 32.2 million from 203.2 million to 171 million, primarily due to project timing. And importantly, no policy changes are included in this update. Staff recommends adoption Resolution 25-12-A, Revision 1, to approve the fiscal year 25-26 mid-year budget. And Chair, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions here? Newell?
Yuli, thank you for that. Brian, thank you. This is always fascinating. It is always complicated because we give away everything we do in the end, and the timing is very complex. Just as a small suggestion, we always list, because we're cash basis, you know, how much is going to principal, how much is going to interest. I want to see the declining number, just as, and by the way, our outstanding total debt is X, because that way the next time I see it, I'll go, wow, we dropped 40 million. It'd just be nice to know. We are on a event horizon out to 2034. It's just kind of nice to see that. And I think we ought to be, you know, highlighting it because it's important in our process, renewals and everything where we're at. So anyway, just a small suggestion. Otherwise, this is fantastic news. Thank you.
And that would also just show that, you know, we're responsible in paying for everything on the time schedule. That'd be great.
All right.
Any other questions here or comments?
One question.
Ron, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Yuli. On the sales tax revenue projections, it shows 63.99 million for the first 6 months, and then 120 million for the whole year. Does it drop down in the second half of the year as far as, it's not 50-50, obviously, correct?
Yes, thank you for your questions. When it comes to budgeting revenues, we always try to be conservative. So currently, as you mentioned, we already at the midpoint of the fiscal year, and it shows a little above the half of the 120, which is 63, which is a little over. So I think we're projecting we might be a little over, you know, like 1 or 2% this year than our projected, and that'd be good because we try to build up our reserve at the same time for any, you know, financial issues or anything that might come up later.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Brian?
Just really quick, when you think about sales tax in the holiday season, in the second quarter of the fiscal year, it'll always be higher because of the extra expenses. Gas prices go up, consumer spending goes up, those type of things. And then so that's always our biggest quarter of the year. So.
Okay. And then also noticing that the investment income is up about $1 million, which is good. Do we see that trend continuing as well? Or is it hard to tell right now with all the uncertainty around the world?
Our consultant, investment consultant, PTA, in the beginning, we heard that they're projecting there will be interest rate reductions. And that's why from the beginning, we tried to like slow down the investment income. But as we are now, we don't see that many decrease in terms of the reduction of interest rate. So we will just keep it this way for now, and then as we continue meet with our consultant, we will update again, you know, whether it should be higher or will stay the same or, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot, but $1 million is $1 million, so it's always nice to get a little more money. So, thank you.
It's significant, yes. Okay, any other questions here? I have one small one, and maybe this is too much in the weeds. On slide 9, your proposed expenditures. Under the sub-regional projects, what is the sub-regional Martinez Railroad, I guess, improvements? Increased expenses of $532,000. What is that project? Hisham?
Yeah, that's actually the expansion of the parking lot as well as the pedestrian bridge that were completed many years ago. However, we just got the final bill.
Oh, wow.
Because of a legal, there is litigation on the project, so we just got the bill from the city. That's why it's showing up.
Oh, okay, all right, so nothing more is going to be happening there. It seems to work now. Okay, thank you. Any others? Emily, do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment, written or virtual.
Okay, so we do have a resolution before us for the mid-year budget.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Noack. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by G. Any further discussion? No. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Yes.
Commissioner Noack,
Yes?
Vice Chair Arnrich,
Yes.
Chair Kelly.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, so our last item for today is the overview of consultant costs for fiscal year 24-25, and Ryan McLean is going to present this one.
Thank you, Chair Kelly. Good morning, Commissioners. All right, so this is following up on Yuli's report on the mid-year budget. We thought this would be a good time to kind of take a deeper dive into some of our consultant costs that we have every year. This is jumping back to fiscal year 24-25, just because that was the last complete year. And with invoices coming in, it's tough at different times. It's tough to do sort of a mid-year snapshot. So this is the full one-year snapshot from 24-25. And our intention here is that we would actually come back every year that we do the mid-year budget and go through these numbers. Because again, since this is a snapshot, this is going to evolve over time in terms of where these costs are going. So CCTA uses staff for a variety, or consultants for a variety of reasons. This is for staff augmentation. It's to bring in expertise and outside perspectives that we may not have internally. It's to accommodate the fluctuations in workload and also reduce fiscal liability in terms of taking on additional staff internally that we are then having pensions and et cetera for. And I hope you like pie charts. There's a lot of pie charts.
It's not a pie chart.
It will be. Just wait. So I thought I'd start with our revenue from 24-25. This is 172 million and change spread across several different areas. Obviously, most of this is coming from our sales tax that has remained around 120 million as discussed earlier. And then we've got income coming from local in the form mostly of match for grants that we've gone after, especially on the smart signal side. We've got some state grants in there, federal grants, and then investment income, that sort of thing. So then where does the money go out of? Not sure why those other labels aren't showing up. Let me pull that up on here. Yeah, the labels aren't coming up, so I'm going to describe the labels to you. This is a pretty well split out pie chart and kind of spread evenly across several different areas. The local street maintenance is on there as the orange. Other programs like bus services, paratransit is the green. Project expenditures, so that's direct expenditures onto various projects, is the lighter blue, 42 million. We had 26 million, or excuse me, 44 million in debt services and about 26 million in other expenses, and that was things such as administration and CMA and the FUR fund, Momentum Station accounts, those types of things. So I wanted to break out the chunk of this that is going towards consultants. And initially I'm going to talk about consultants in kind of a broad term, and that's going to include construction contractors, that's going to include public agencies who were paying to support projects such as City of Richmond's helping us deliver the I-80 Central project. So that's included in this 41 million. We pay the county to do a lot of our right-of-way work. That's included in this. It's also including vendors, so Beep and May Mobility that we're running our ADS programs are also included in this 41 million. So in terms of type of consultants and costs that this is going to, the biggest chunk is going to the engineering and planning work, and that's to push both our plans and our projects forward with consultants. You see that big chunk of public agency costs. That's what I was talking about in terms of having public agencies support us on projects. Vendors, communications is basically all the different outreach efforts that we've done. Office expenses, and for this year was primarily the remodel that we did. So a lot of that shows up here. That's why that cost is a bit higher than usual. University, that's our partnership with UC Berkeley and their support on projects. And then construction contractor is actually, that's primarily the Bollinger Overcrossing is where that was going. So this gets into the actual consultants that were on this. One thing to note on this does include sub-consultant costs within the prime consultant. So Myers Shimmick had a bunch of subcontractors that were working on the Bollinger Overcrossing. AMG has a lot of sub-consultants that work under their contract. That's all grouped into this total cost that is shown for each consultant. This graph is the, and I should say we had around 100 payees for that year. So this is basically the top 10 or so for contracts that were over 900,000 combined. So this also doesn't break out individual agreements. This is the total agreements for each of those consultants. So we have Myers Shimmick that was working on the Bollinger Overcrossing. AMG this is for our PMO work, but also direct project support. It's also including 511, and also a lot of pass-throughs to consultants or sub-consultants that they have on board. WSP is on Innovate 680. AECOM is supporting on San Pablo Dam Road interchange. WMH is on the 684 interchange. Farron Piers, this was primarily working on the countywide transportation plan. BEEP was for the ADS, for the SAV grants. And Kimley Horn working on the smart signals and I believe the safety action plans, and it goes on from there. So these are kind of our biggest expenses that we had back in 24-25. So I wanted to kind of break out just that engineering and planning piece so we can kind of get a little bit more down into the details of the consultants helping us deliver projects. So that brings that total to 22 million, where we're dividing that up into a pie now. And the biggest cost on there is, well, that orange cost is AMG. I'll figure out why these labels are not showing up on the presentation, but so they're the biggest piece of that. And then again, you'll see this has removed the contractor costs. So Shimmick is no longer showing up on here, and also removes the vendors and removes the public agencies as well. So that takes us down to 22 million total, and added a couple more consultants on there at the bottom to kind of show everything that's down to 300 contracts that are 350,000 or above. So that's what this is showing. I also wanted to just show an example of a project that we're working on. This is both kind of wrapping up some of the construction of the earlier phases and moving towards the construction of the next phase. So a lot of expenditures going on this one. And so the largest chunk of this is WMH, who's leading the design for this project. The next cost is actually the sanitary district, due to them designing their relocations and actually starting to do some of the relocations that are required for this project. AMG is next. They're providing the PMO support on this project, but also this was around 100,000 that was spent to go after grants, which resulted in $58 million awarded to this project. So AMG led those efforts as well. And let's see, Parsons is working on the trail connector. That's part of the mitigation for this project, looking at the Iron Horse Trail to Canal Trail connector. So that's what the cost is for Parsons. Fair and Piers has been working on the traffic. And so those are really how a typical project gearing up for construction, this is how we see this layout. I think we're going to see a big change in all of this as we move into the next couple of years, as we enter into, we've got $600 million of construction coming up, so it's going to change a lot of how this all lays out. But this is the type of fluctuation from design or environmental into design into construction, where those fluctuations, it's really important to have these consultants come to help kind of smooth that workflow out. So that's the end of the presentation. Happy to revisit any of that. I also just want to thank Brian and Yuli for all their support on helping me put this together.
Great, great, thank you. Any questions here? Yeah, Darlene?
Thank you very much, Ryan. If you can you and Tim explain a little more about how you balance? I mean, I think we all understand if you have a significant size discrete project that's going to design or construction or whatever, you're doing a standalone RFP for that. But I'm curious how you're deciding to balance what AMG is doing versus some of those other consultants that have overlapping skills like Fair and Piers and Kimley Horn and things like that, in terms of balancing the efficiency of what you're getting out of AMG's contract versus some of those other consultants. I'm just curious how that thought process goes.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So I do want to point out that around 1.2 million of that 5 million plus was going towards consultants with direct path through to sub-consultants. And so that is providing us somewhat of a mechanism to get broader resources from that contract. So that does take that number down a bit. But otherwise, I think, this is a lot of direct project support and then a fair amount of 511 CCTA. So these aren't necessarily giving additional, it just takes a lot to run those projects and manage the consultants that are working on those projects. So that's really the role that AMG is taking on with those. I wouldn't say that they're getting a lot of extra work that isn't kind of those core roles.
No?
Yeah, maybe just to quickly add, I think just to build on what Ryan was saying, I think the key for us is just using AMG as an extension of staff. I mean, they're basically helping us review these consultant invoices, processing contracts and agreements, working with stakeholders, attending Caltrans PDT meetings. I mean, it's really an extension of staff that they're serving, for CCTA, because as you can tell by the project portfolio, I mean, this is more work than Stephanie and all of us here, Hisham, all of us here can handle on our own in terms of all the meetings, the contracts, the agreements, the invoices, all these things. And, and so we're a small team. And so I think managing a large portfolio of projects. And so we're trying to really balance, making sure that, what we have done in the past is that, when we hire these consultants to do the work, I mean, they're doing the core work, based on scope. They're doing the design, the right-of-way, the PAED, the planning. They're really doing the deliverables, right? And I think that's probably the balance, is really comparing it to the actual deliverables versus the administration. And so I think what AMG is helping us with is that administration, in terms of, like I mentioned earlier, the invoices, the contracts, the agreements, the meetings and preparing for meetings and all those things. And then CCTA staff, depending on how big the project is, because there's a lot of us here that actually manage projects on our own without AMG support too, but it depends on the nature of the project. And so we rely on them to kind of organize, the project and kind of keep everyone on task, particularly the consultant, and so that's how we use, AMG and that. And then I think Ryan also mentioned it. The other key component I think AMG serves is on the grant side of things. And so that's another big component of this, is really focusing on the TSIB grant and all these other things. I mean, they do provide a core function to help us secure additional funding for all of these projects. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, I guess I would, and so, given that they have so many sub-consultants too, I'm just curious if you have if you have a really small need, like let's say you need $30,000 worth of traffic engineering, is that going to one of AMG's sub-consultants or AMG? You're not doing a standalone RFP for something that small, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And that's exactly kind of the team that AMG pulled together for this contract, is to basically serve a wide variety of needs that could come up for exactly that reason. I think the grant application for 684 is a good example where we needed to do a benefit cost analysis that really the consultant on board and even AMG couldn't do on their own. So we're able to have Fair and Peers work on that.
Yeah, and maybe just to add really quick, I mean, in that 5 million, there's a lot there, right? There's the PMO, there's 511, there's support for Innovate 680. They also have they actually have project agreements, contract project agreements to deliver the ADS, the automated driving system, and the mod grant. So the PMO of that 5 million is actually roughly about 3.6 million. It's not the entire 5 million, and then roughly about 3.6 of that million, I mean, a good portion of that is going to sub-consultants. And so, like, for example, on right-of-way, like ARWS, that's a sub to AMG, they're supporting us on, on the 684 project, in terms of dealing and taking on the owner responsibility, CCTA's owner responsibility around the right-of-way. So that's being handled under AMG's contract. So yeah, I mean, the purpose of the contract is just to give us a wide variety of support to be able to deal with any issues that are arising as we're moving through any of the planning, program, and project delivery.
Thanks. Noel?
Yeah, I just add a little bit on that. That's one of the reasons why we do these on-call agreements, so we can pick up these things as come. And I have to admit, the one thing that was most impressive, nobody's as good as AMG is getting grants. I mean, they've helped us on every major grant that we have. And, it's something that most of us cities, I wish we could afford, but the fact is their track record speaks for itself. But I just have to say, I think this is actually one of the best presentations we've seen on this. It's very simple. It's straightforward. And I think we ought to institutionalize this. Make it an annual touch base. Other than the questions, because it's the first time we've really seen this, it's a 10-minute presentation. I think we all need to see this. And I think it kind of makes us as transparent as possible. I think this is really well done. So, thank you.
Yeah, just really quick, sorry, Chair Curley, I think just on that point, and Ryan and I have talked a lot about that, this is the first time we've ever done this. This is the first time, and we did this in response, to some of the comments that we've gotten from APC and the board. And so, and I think this is really helpful, and I think our plan, Commissioner Arnrich, is that we would do this presentation every year at the same time as the mid-year budget. That's the goal. That's kind of what we're planning on doing, and so every year we do the mid-year budget, and then we have this presentation to kind of share where the consultant costs are at. So I think that's good timing, relative to this content and the presentation.
Thank you. Well done.
Yeah, I would agree. It really is good, because when we see all of these consultant agreements come one by one throughout the year, as Sue has said, it's just very, very confusing. So this is really great. And then on the large dollar amounts, when you can break them down a bit into who's working on what exactly, that is also helpful too. Thank you. Okay,
One more
yes,
question.
Ron.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. It's excellent. I agree with everybody that, this is something we want to continue with. And I like the way it drills down, it starts big and then gets smaller, see examples. The only question I would have is, this is the last fiscal year, right? And we're already 7-8 months into the new fiscal year. Is there a way to show the first 6 months of the new year somehow without complicating this? Because, it's we're really always looking forward, right? And so we're just a few months behind on what's really happening for this year.
Yeah, we did look at basically year-to-date, fiscal year-to-date data. The challenge is that we make a big push to make sure everybody gets their invoices in at the end of the fiscal year, and make sure that we get our reimbursements done through the grants. And so looking at the data for the first half of the 25-26 fiscal year, it wasn't very reflective of halfway through the budget. So I think that's the challenge with it, is that we just don't do this big mid-year push to get everybody to make sure their invoices are all in. So that's where I'd just be a little bit concerned about it not kind of providing the full picture on that. I mean, we could do this presentation earlier and kind of decouple it from the mid-year budget.
I
if
mean,
that would make-
I think, yeah, I think it's fine with the mid-year. It's just, I was just curious. I know if it doesn't serve any purpose, then it isn't worth the brain damage. But, you know, if it does, then that's fine. So this is great, though. Thank you.
Darlene?
Yeah, the only other, I agree with everyone. This is great, and I think this is important and good for us to see. I think going forward is, my suggestion would be, given how much construction contracting we've got coming up, it would be nice to, you know, break that out, split the consultant part from the contracting part so that we can see it a little bit more clearly.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah.
sense.
And so I would just say, so this is all based on the invoices that have been paid, rather than just the amounts that were appropriated in the resolutions.
Correct.
And if we wanted to look forward, as Ron was possibly suggesting, we would just be looking at the approved agreement amounts, even though the invoices had not come in.
True, yeah, and we could use that mid-year budget. I mean, we could look at how much is budgeted and how much we expect to see each consultant.
Yeah.
That could be a second part of this,
But that's-
basically.
That's a little hard to do, because one of those contracts is, you know, an on-call contract, it's there in case you need it, so trying, I just don't know how you would do that. Yeah, I think, keep it simple. Let's kiss each other here and keep it simple, because it gives us the point in time, 8 weeks after the end of the first 6 months. I think it's a perfect window, you know, and it's a good first step. So let's not, you know, add too much, I was going to suggest at this point, because I think we have some, you know, newer members here who have no background, so I think the way you present it is very simple for people to see. I think I'd start here. And if people ask more questions as we go along, after a couple of these, great, we can expand it. All right.
Okay, and so we'll see how it goes over at the full authority board meeting, see what kinds of questions we got.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Is there any public comment, Emily, on any of these?
No public comment, written or virtual.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, everyone. So that's the last of our regular items. Correspondence, communications, I don't think we have any. Commissioner and staff comments, I don't have any. Are there commissioner comments?
I just want to say, but she left. I just want to make sure we said thank you to Sue.
Yeah.
Given how busy that woman is on MTC, which is a 2-year commitment, it's almost a full-time job, and the mayor, just to say thank you for ABC. And I think she left so fast because she was good to have to not to run anything.
Yeah, and she had to get to another event, okay. So thank you. Any executive staff comments?
No executive staff comment.
Okay, thank you. So we will now adjourn, and our next meeting is on April 2nd at 8:30 a.m. Thank you, everyone.